for a different reason. Right now, he was the only one who knew about the system, and although Vex seemed like he was passed out on the ground, who knew if he was listening in or not. Give me your neck, Logan demanded. Why? Quinn asked. If you want me to trust you, then give me your neck, Logan said once again. Quinn did as asked, and walked over while bending down slightly. Then, when Logan touched Quinn's neck, a part of his suit started to move and form a type of collar around Quinn's neck. If you try anything funny, that collar will explode, Logan said. Although vampires had great healing abilities, he wasn't so sure he would be able to survive an explosion around the neck. The two of them left the room and headed upstairs to where Logan's room was located. After they left, Vex started to get up from the floor and around his chest area, a burn mark could be seen. Just thought that little twip would have been so strong, Vex said as he touched his chest area. It was slowly starting to heal, but wasn't healing as fast as a regular wound, which was a first for Vex. He just wondered what that energy blast was made of. Good thing I stayed on the floor. I was not ready for that one, he said. Do you think Quinn is going to be okay? Peter asked. Logan is a level 8 user. I know Quinn's strong, but we have to deal with this problem first, Gordon said, pointing at the students on the floor. Maybe Quinn can buy us some time, but if Logan reports us, they still can't do anything without any proof, so we need to get rid of the evidence as quickly as possible. The three of them nodded and got to work. Quinn and Logan were inside their room, and out of habit, Logan had gone to his usual seat when talking to Quinn. Hey Quinn, I thought we had a fair deal before, but it seems you were hiding more from me than I originally thought. And although I have a great interest in the system, I cannot condone someone who goes around killing random people. Quinn was struggling to think about how to explain this to Logan. Not only that, but if he would believe him, and how would he react to the truth? While deep in his thoughts, an unexpected voice in his head was heard. Let him touch you again, the system said. His ability, I think I figured out what it is. If you touch me, then it will allow me to speak to him, pass over everything I know, and explain everything that happened. Although Quinn thought it would be better if he explained it in his own words, at the same time, he felt like Logan might not believe him if he did. But if it came directly from the system, then there was a chance. Logan, if you touch me, then the system will be able to explain everything. It will all make sense. Logan was still in his heavy miniature mech suit, apart from one of his hands that had been used to form a collar around Quinn's neck. While in the suit, he felt safe. I'm putting my trust in you one more time, he said, as Quinn went over with his hand held out. When the two of their hands connected, instead of normal system message, Logan was able to speak clearly to the system. The system was then also able to show images of everything that had happened to Quinn so far, including all of the conversations they had. Usually, a normal human brain wouldn't be able to process all of this information at once, but it was being downloaded into Logan's mind like a hard drive. The system knew this would only work with someone like Logan. Quinn, on the other hand, had no clue what was happening, and could just see that Logan was remaining still. Then, after a few minutes, Logan let go of Quinn's hand. He then raised it and touched the collar around his neck, removing it before sitting back down in his chair. What happened? Quinn asked. I understand why you did what you did, Quinn. If I was in the same situation as you, I don't know how I would be able to handle it. Perhaps I would have chosen to seclude myself even further away from everyone. All the actions you took, I can't blame you, because in a way it was the only thing you could do. After receiving the information, Logan then tried to put himself in Quinn's shoes. Although some of the things he did were bad, could be avoided was a big question. This would ultimately make up Logan's mind whether Quinn was a bad person or not. After running multiple different scenarios in his head, he had found a couple of ways where he would have been able to have come out or done better, but Quinn had never made a truly misguided decision. And even now, he was thinking of a way to turn Peter back to normal without hurting anyone. It made him happy to find out that Quinn's character and personality were still the same he thought it was. Still, what made him even happier was he was able to find out more details about the system. How was it possible that someone in this area could create an AI so complex? The AI itself reminded Logan of his ability. The two of them sat there for a while. Logan continued to think of all the things he had learned today. The fact that vampires were real didn't interest him as much as the system part, but now that the two of them were linked, he wanted to know more about them as well. Quinn had remained quiet, unsure how Logan had taken everything he had just learned. and then Logan suddenly took off the suit and informed the original small ball he had in his hand before. You know, Logan said, I can help you with your problem. Problem? Getting the human flesh. There is a way, Logan replied. Episode 184, Dark Marketplace. The three boys had worked fast this time, and because they were in a rush, even Fex had to help beyond his determined contribution, an unusual trait of the young man, for the reason that he was afraid of getting caught. Rather than simply using his influence skill to clear their minds, he also commanded them to follow him. Then, whenever they arrived at a safe place or a random hall, he would break the skill, allowing their minds to be cleared. It also returned them to normal as if nothing had ever happened. The group did the very same thing to all three students, and they were all fully healed as normal. What are we going to do about the window? Peter asked. Don't worry, I can deal with that. I will just make the other two students in the room think that they were in a fight. They can just take the blame, Fex said. Although Fex was growing a bit tired since he had used his influence skill a lot today, taking up his mental energy, he merely held out to achieve their goal. However, he would need a good rest after everything was over and done with. Should we check up on Quinn? Peter asked. You two can go, but I don't want to get blasted again, Fex said as he looked down, noticing that his wound had finally healed. Just then, the beep sound of the door was heard. Knowing that it wasn't going to be Fex's roommates, everybody prepared themselves for the worst to come. Nevertheless, when they saw Logan enter the room with Quinn trailing him, they were able to relax a little. There were no teachers, and Logan no longer looked frightening without him donning the mech suit. It's okay, guys, Logan knows everything, Quinn said. Everything? Peter asked. They thought that Quinn had lied, perhaps, or had only told the truth about Peter. But in reality, Logan knew more than everyone in the room. Logan now knew about the system as well as the vampires. Logan then pointed at Peter, and as he spoke to each person, he would move along to the next. Yes, I know that you are a ghoul, Logan said, pointing. You are a vampire like Quinn. Also, you're a strange person who seems to be wrapped up in this, more so than you should be. My conclusion is that you are crazy. Peter looked towards Morden and could see his eyebrow was twitching up and down. If there was one word that Morden didn't like, it was the word crazy. Anyway, I propose we all head upstairs to my room, because I have a solution to your little eater problem. Follow me. Logan left the room and Quinn followed behind, while signaling to the others that it was all right to do so. You guys can go ahead without me, Fex said. I've done my part, so there are no more favors in between us. I did my thing and you did your thing. As the others left the room, Fex was finally able to lie down on his bed. The wound and the strain from the multiple uses of influence skill had drained all his energy. He didn't follow them because he didn't want to be seen as weak in front of the others, afraid that they might use it as a chance to get rid of him. I'll just go ahead and close my eyes, Fex said, as he nearly instantly went to sleep. The boys, except for Fex, had finally made it into Logan's room, and made sure that the door was firmly shut behind them. Are you sure this isn't all a trap, Quinn? How is this guy meant to help us? Logan whispered. I don't know, Quinn replied. He hasn't told me anything yet, but I trust him. He helped me out with the watch and knew about my shadow abilities, yet still didn't tell anyone. I see no reason for him to tell others about this as well. Logan then logged into his computer as usual. From the surface of the computer screen, a light shone out and a projection appeared, allowing the others to see everything that Logan was doing. The problem is that you need a fresh piece of human meat, correct? But the human meat shouldn't be raw, so going to the cemetery is not an option. You also couldn't sneak into the hospital due to the surveillance cameras, Logan explained. He then went on to a certain site. It looked exactly like the marketplace where Quinn had gone on to buy his equipment, only this was slightly different. Instead of a white background on the webpage, it was black. I will introduce you to a whole new world you probably didn't even know existed, said Logan. We call this the Dark Marketplace. It contains items that aren't allowed to be sold in the regular marketplace. It even has a request board, one that can evade the eyes of the government. What kind of things are on there? Peter asked. Sometimes they will ask someone to steal information from their competitors. Some jobs even include hiring assassins to hit on certain people all around the world. Usually, if there is something that you want to get, you can find it here, said Logan. I've heard of this before, Gordon said. I had no clue how to access it. It seems like only certain people within a group know how to. My family said they would let me know once I am old enough. That's because the dark marketplace only allows certain individuals to get a membership. However, my ability allows me to bypass any restrictions, and I can log in with no worries. Logan then typed into the search bar, and straight away, what they were looking for appeared. The words could be seen: fresh human flesh available now, caught less than 24 hours ago. Seeing this scared the others a little. They were still young and naive. They knew the world had taken a turn for the worse, yet this seemed like a few steps too far. But even in the past, in the old age of the internet, there was a similar service like this called the dark web. Seeing this, Quinn started to read the description and found something strange. The item had been shrunk and filled with nitrogen to keep it as fresh as possible. It had also been dried of all blood, so the customer could only get the flesh itself. Logan, could you check for me? Is there any way to get blood? Quinn asked. The others thought that Quinn perhaps didn't want to rely on Layla or Forden any longer. If he could get an endless supply online, that would be a big help for him. However, Quinn was hoping for a shortcut, but seeing the fact that the human flesh had been dried of blood made him feel a little suspicious of the ensuing transaction. Logan did a quick type, and to his surprise, the screen said, "No results found." This was the dark marketplace. As long as there was a demand for something, then they would have it. Yet this time they didn't have blood. It was certainly strange. I find it odd that there isn't bee blood on this. Regardless, even before vampires began to exist, some underground hospitals and groups would need them for emergencies. Perhaps I should look into this more. Logan continued to ponder on the subject. So, are we able to order the flesh then? Peter asked. Yes, I'll do that for you now, Logan replied. The flesh cost quite a sum. It was around 10,000 credits, the same price as an advanced tier beast core. However, Logan had covered the cost of the flesh for them. He stated that he would much rather let himself do this than allow them to go around the school trying to cut someone's limb off. Although this was bad in its way, the flesh already existed in the marketplace. The person was dead, and there was nothing they could do. Once he placed the order online, just like in the marketplace, he had received a code. When the confirmation was sent, he was ready to receive his package. In his room, Logan had a teleporter receiver for packages. He often ordered things online and on the dark marketplace for parts for his gadgets. After typing the code in, the item suddenly appeared in a box. They opened it up, and it was shrunk, wrapped, and covered with ice, just like the order had said. Quinn used his inspection skill. Thereafter, the description stated that there wasn't a single part of it that had blood on them. After taking it out, they placed the meat in Peter's hands, and Logan couldn't stop staring at him. He was interested in seeing how Peter was able to eat the meat. Although Peter was a little shy, he quickly gobbled up the food. When he saw that it was similar to an animal eating meat, Logan lost his interest once again. 7 of 7 different pieces of human flesh have been consumed by your ghoul. Quest complete. Evolution process will begin. Episode 185, Peter Evolving. Almost at the same time as Quinn had received the notification from the system, a loud groan could be heard from behind him. Peter, what's wrong? Are you okay? Borden said, with a worried expression. He was shaking Peter, who had fallen, and was lying on the ground. Peter was clutching his tummy with both hands. He felt like a fire was spreading out from that point all over his body. Guys, give him some space, Quinn said. He's evolving. I don't know what he'll turn into, or what's going to happen to him next. Quinn knew from his own experience how painful the process of evolving was, but more than that, he was worried about what Peter might turn into. Quinn had immediately asked the system what Peter would evolve into, but the response he received worried him. The system said there were many possibilities, and it couldn't predict which one Peter would evolve into. He had thought that completing his quest and letting Peter evolve would be the end of his problems, but once again, the system had kept some information from him. When lower-class creatures like ghouls evolved, there were many different classes they could change into. Sometimes, by using certain methods, the classes someone would evolve into could be influenced, but mostly it was a random process that depended on the situation and personality of the individual. Every class had its own set of skills, and some were rarer than others. But when Quinn found out about a specific class a ghoul could evolve into, he became very upset. It was the class known as the Wendigo. Out of all the classes Peter could evolve into, this was the worst. It was the only class that would require him to eat human flesh, but that was not the only issue with the class. The system had added that because they managed to feed Peter quickly, it wasn't likely he would turn into a Wendigo, but there were no guarantees. All of them stepped back to give Peter some space. Logan turned his spider bots into a cannon attached to his arm and aimed it at Peter. He hadn't covered his whole body this time, but just enough to create the cannon. Logan looked at the others with a determined look on his face. "I'm not taking any chances," Logan said. "There are too many things left in this world that I still need to discover and investigate." Borden agreed with him and thought his actions were very reasonable. He was glad Logan had something to point at Peter, because he only had the healing ability right now, and that wasn't any help if things went wrong with the evolution. The groans coming from Peter were getting louder, and he started to shake all over. This much pain he had never experienced before. It felt like something was trying to break all the bones in his body. As they nervously watched Peter, they started to see visible changes in his body. His skin began to shrink and tighten and turn white all over. He didn't look sick or weak. The scene reminded Borden of what Quinn had looked like before his evolution into a full vampire. It looked like Peter's body hadn't lost any mass, but it looked like he was shriveling up and was dehydrated. "Hey, he's not turning into a Wendigo, is he?" Quinn asked the system. "I don't know for sure, but you should be prepared for the worst. I'll be honest with you, these are the signs of someone turning into one. If that's the case, I think it would be best to allow Logan to just kill Peter," the system replied. "But I thought you said I couldn't kill Peter. Also, why can't we just feed him again till he evolves, like last time?" Quinn asked, with a mix of fear and hope in his voice. "For your first question, as long as it is someone else who is going to kill Peter, and you don't try to abandon him at that moment, anyone can kill him. Secondly, unlike other classes, Wendigos can't evolve anymore, and unlike a ghoul, they aren't loyal to their master at all. They have lost their intelligence entirely and can only react based on instinct. They have only one thing on their mind, which is food. The only bit of loyalty they have left is that they won't attack their master, but for the rest of their undead lives, they will continue to hunt and kill humans to eat their flesh," the system replied, dashing Quinn's hope. Quinn didn't like the idea of it, but if Peter turned into a Wendigo, he had no other choice. Many people had already gotten hurt. He had felt guilty about Peter's situation, which was why he was doing his best to help him. But this was a cost that would be too high, even for him. At the same time, there was something that was worrying Peter a lot more right now. His heartbeat was starting to slow down. With the pain on top of this, he thought perhaps he was dying. However, even though his heart wasn't beating anymore, he could still feel everything, and it didn't feel like he was dead at all. Then finally, his heartbeat had stopped entirely, and at the same time, so did the pain. "Congratulations! Your ghoul has successfully evolved into a white. Blood ritual skill has evolved. 1 of 3 slots remaining for the cursed family." As Peter stood up from the floor, his face looked more sunken in than before, and his skin was slightly paler. Immediately, Peter grabbed his chest for some reason, and he held it there for a while, yet there was nothing. Not a single beat was felt. "Tell us your age, name, and where you are," Logan shouted. He had to make sure that Peter was right in the head. "I don't answer to you," Peter snapped. "I will only answer to one," he said, pointing at Quinn. Quinn then repeated the question. "Peter Chuck, 16, and we are inside Logan's room, sir." Satisfied with the answers, Logan put his hand down, but also made sure not to take the mechanical weapon. "Inspect. Name, Peter Chuck. Race, white. Stats will correspond with creator until it reaches its limit." Seeing the last bit of information had given Quinn a surprise. This meant right now that Peter had the same stat points as Quinn. He was just as strong and just as fast. Although the second part would suggest it would continue to increase as long as Quinn got stronger, at some point it would reach a cap. "What is it? Is it bad like the Wendigo or one of the better ones?" Quinn asked. "Why don't you use your inspect skill and see?" the system replied. "If you select the race option with your mind, it should pull up more information. Race, white. An undead creature which is fast and sneaky in the night. They are best used as a form of an assassin. Whites have a high level of intelligence, similar to humans, although their personalities could not be said to be the same. They are awful to their creator, but once they see someone as their enemy, they will do everything in their power to get rid of them. Wights are immune to poison, sleep, paralysis, mind control, and diseases. They also contain a skill that will allow them to turn a killed victim into another lesser wight. 0 of 2. Nothing to do with this class change. It seemed to also cause a slight personality change in Peter as well. Well, you're already dead. There is no longer any need for you to eat human flesh, and your unnatural healing abilities will heal you most of the time. But if you do get hurt and you use too much energy, you will once again have to eat human flesh. All there is